So one question that I get asked all the time on this channel is what I think about buying a BMW as your very first car. So a lot of times when people are looking at their very first car, they get really emotional about it. They only think about how much the car payment costs and they don't consider some of these other expenses that go along with it. So in this video, I'm going to point out 5 things that you may not have thought about when it comes to buying a BMW as your very first car. Before I get started, I just want to make it very clear, I'm not trying to talk down to anyone or question whether or not you can actually afford it. It's nothing like that. I'm just saying let's set the emotional stuff aside here and talk about some of the actual ownership costs associated with these cars. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing that you're going to want to consider is the cost of fuel. So BMW as a brand isn't particularly known for making really fuel efficient cars. There are definitely other more efficient brands out there. And then on top of that, if you're looking at a gas BMW, they do require premium 91 octane or higher. So that is going to be quite a bit more expensive than regular gas. And for me personally, I like to use 93 whenever that's available, and that's even more expensive still. So right on screen, I'm going to put today's gas prices here where I live in Detroit. That way you guys can kind of compare and see how much more expensive 93 is compared to 91 and how much more 91, which is the minimum, is compared to the regular gas that most people use in their cars. The next thing that a lot of first-time car buyers forget about is the cost of insurance, and unfortunately BMWs do tend to have higher insurance costs, and if you're a younger driver like under 25 years old, your insurance is going to be pretty high anyway. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to call a couple different insurance companies and just get quotes from them. All of these places will be happy to give you quotes because they want to do business with you. So I would call 3 or 4 places and just get maybe you want a 335 or something. They should be able to give you the price of insurance over the phone, so you know that day before you even get too deep into researching what car you're going to get, you can have an idea of how much the insurance costs, because you may call one of these places and find out that the insurance on the particular BMW that you want may even be more than the actual car payment itself. So just be aware of that. One really good tip is that if you can get on your parents' insurance policy, you'll save a lot of money by doing that, by bundling your car. So when I was living at home, we had 3 cars plus the homeowner's insurance all on one policy, and it was a huge savings for me. And then when I moved out and I had to get my own policy, the insurance went way up. So that's one thing to think about. If you're still living at home with your parents, see if you can get on their policy, and you'll save a lot of money by doing that. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the maintenance costs, and that is your planned reoccurring expenses with the car. That's things like oil changes, brakes, tires, fluids, stuff that's going to have to be replaced no matter what, like on a reoccurring schedule. So just for the example of oil changes, I've done videos about this and I've asked you guys, how much does it cost to change the oil on your BMW? And a lot of people said that if they took their car to the dealership, they would be paying as little as $120 and as high as $200 just for an oil change. Now that does depend on the exact model and the location of where you live. Sometimes the prices vary just based on what city you're in, but me personally, I change my own oil, and I've done videos on this. It costs me about $60 to change my own oil, so it's still a lot cheaper than going to the dealership, but definitely more expensive than your standard car that just uses the conventional oil. So by the way, you see those commercials on TV like 15-minute oil change for $20. Yeah, unfortunately that does not apply to BMW. So the maintenance on these cars is a little bit more expensive, so that's just something that you're going to have to factor in. So the big thing that a lot of people worry about when it comes to buying a BMW, especially as your first car, is the cost of repairs. So that's your unplanned expenses. When something breaks, maybe you get a check engine light that requires some work on it. And so I've been pretty lucky with this car. I haven't had too many issues with it. I've had it for 3.5 years now. So far I've replaced the blower motor for the heat and the air conditioning. I had 1 coil pack fail that I had to replace, and then just recently I replaced an axle shaft and a ball joint. So that last repair with the axle shaft, that was about $550. So that's a good point too. I definitely recommend, as you're planning out your budget and what you're going to spend on the car, you definitely want to set aside around $1,000 for repairs. And I'm not saying that you're going to spend $1,000 every time it breaks, or that you're going to be spending that much every month, but it is good to have that cash set aside. That way when something does happen, you don't freak out or put it on a credit card with like 25% interest. It's nice to just have the cash set aside for emergency car issues like that. One really important thing with regards to repair costs and reliability is that it's extremely important to get one with as few miles as you possibly can. So there's this saying in the BMW community that cheap BMW is an expensive BMW, and basically what that means is people sometimes think that they're getting this great deal on a car. People send me links to these ones that are like $5,000 or less with crazy high miles, and it might seem like a good deal now, but believe me, in the long run, I think that the repair costs are going to be astronomical compared to if you were to get one with lower miles. So definitely look for the lowest mileage that you possibly can in your price range. One last thing that a lot of people don't even really think about when they're buying a car is the cost of depreciation. So a lot of people say like, hey, I'm gonna get this 325, I'm gonna drive it for a couple years and then sell it to buy an M3. The problem is that in 2 or 3 years that 325 is only gonna be worth like half of what you paid for it. So just to give you guys an example of my exact car, it's a 330xi, fully loaded, has pretty much every option available except for the M Sport package, and my exact car was originally $48,000. Now I bought it with only 20,000 miles on it for $18,000. So just in that short 20,000 miles that the original owner drove it, it really fell off in price. And then since I've had the car for the last 3.5 years, the price has been cut in half yet again. So I just checked Kelley Blue Book value of my exact car, and right now it's going for around 9,000 private sale or around 6,000 dealership trade-in. So even in the time that I've had the car, the price has really dropped. So just keep that in mind. There are definitely other brands out there like Subaru which have much higher resale value. So if you're only going to have the car for a short period of time and then sell it to upgrade, you might want to look into something else besides BMW. Now for me, it wasn't really that big of a deal because I plan on keeping this car for a long time. I'm not really worried about selling it or trading it in anytime soon, so the depreciation wasn't really that big of a deal for me personally. Alright guys, well I really hope that this video helped you make an informed decision as to whether or not you should buy a BMW as your very first car. If you're thinking about buying one, definitely subscribe to my channel. I've got tons of DIY videos like how to change the oil, spark plugs, just basic maintenance things like that. You're going to want to learn to do a lot of that stuff on your own because it's going to be a lot cheaper than going to the dealership or going to a shop. So definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.